Today, I want to speak with you about something that's been coming up for me again and again over the years. And I've been reflecting a lot about this as we are moving on to starting our next cohort of 160-hour trauma-informed somatic teacher and coach for women training certification. And that is to do with community and collaboration, and how much of our trauma-informed and somatic work, whether it is in the context of coaching or yoga or wellness practices, how much of our trauma-informed and somatic work is based around community and collaboration. And there is no surprise here for those of us who are trained and worked with trauma, or who are working with trauma already, and who are, if you are familiar with polyvagal theory, you are familiar with the term co-regulation. And this healing, the growth, the connection that we feel that leads to co-regulation. And co-regulation is a fascinating thing. Some of the experts out there say that it's all about co-regulation. And certainly for babies and for children, co-regulation is key to babies and children feeling safe. But as adults, we can learn how to self-regulate. But if you haven't learned how to self-regulate through co-regulation in your childhood, the only way to learn it as an adult is through co-regulation with other adults. And so this concept of co-regulation is key to our trauma-informed and somatic work. It's key to creating safe environment, a safe enough container for other people, for our clients, our students, to be able to connect and drop within their own felt experience and feel safe enough to allow themselves to explore it and feel safe enough for them to share it with us. One of my favorite definitions of trauma is that trauma happens when our experience is unwitnessed and unacknowledged. And it's through this co-regulation, through building safe, boundaried, compassionate relationships, through building safe containers within our work, is that we can start creating spaces where our clients' experience is witnessed and acknowledged in a way that feels safe, in a way that feels really encouraging, in a way that orients towards well-being, towards healing, towards post-traumatic growth. So much of it is about understanding that we belong, that we are part of, that we are not on our own, that we will be held in a safe way by others. And why is this so important to me? I know from my own personal experience how exhausting it is to try things on my own, and how exhausting it is to sustain my own commitment doing things. I know so well how much it hurts to walk the road less traveled when everyone around you doesn't believe in what you're doing and has different view of what you should be doing. Their expectations of you and what you should be doing are different from what your soul and your own inner wisdom is telling you. And I know how it feels to be alone, and I know how it feels not to belong. And you might, maybe you can relate to that from your own personal experiences. I know that when I work with women, whether it's through coaching and mentoring female practitioners, or whether it's working with clients, male and female. It's that most of us have experienced at some point in our life this sense of not belonging, this sense of not having a safe container and support around us. If you know a little bit about my story, you might know that I moved to London when I was 18 years old. And suddenly, from being at school and being an only child and being in a very safe environment, I suddenly ended up in London, central London. I lived originally in Lambeth, away from my family, away from my culture and the language, away from everything that I knew. And I've always been very introverted and quite shy and quite anxious. And so being in that environment was very hard on my nervous system. And very quickly, I started looking for other young people living in London who were in the same position as me, who didn't necessarily have family. Maybe they moved from other parts of UK or the world. Maybe they were a bit disconnected from their families. And it was trying to find my own way of living, trying to find my own, making my own decisions. And often those decisions were not great at that time. I felt alone, I felt isolated, I felt lost, I felt overwhelmed, I felt I didn't belong anywhere. I felt like I didn't have many options. So there was a lot of numbing behaviors. There was a lot of behaviors that were maybe not particularly safe. But meeting other young people in similar situations made me feel like I belonged. It made me feel like I was part of a community, even though that community was a community of people feeling like they don't belong necessarily to this kind of more mainstream way of living. And that experience really guided me to the decisions that I made later, which is starting to work in social care, training in counseling, training in coaching, training in NLP, training in many therapeutic approaches, and really wanting to support others that are in this difficult situation of feeling like they maybe don't belong, feeling a bit lost, feeling unaccepted by others. And this is why, I started working in social care. I worked in dual diagnosis, in substance misuse and mental health. And all of my clients were in a situation where they didn't feel they belonged because of the choices that they made, because of the high level of trauma that they experienced during their childhood, and that continued throughout as they were growing up and through their adult lives. And that need and that value of wanting to support others, wanting to help others to find more stability, more self-regulation, being part of somebody's journey of healing and growth, and finding that sense of belonging that is right for them, stayed with me, throughout my whole life. I still do that. I still support my clients, and I still support other practitioners in really connecting with that sense of inner belonging, of connecting with what's most important for them. So that can manifest in many different ways. For example, it could manifest as finding your own voice. Training, for example, in trauma-informed somatic approach, whether in coaching or yoga, and as a somatic teacher, and really creating something unique that reflects who you are, your own point of view, unique point of view, your own unique life journey, your own unique life story, and your own values, and really supporting others from that space. It might be about allowing yourself to follow your own embodied wisdom path. It might be about supporting others in a way that feels right for you and creating a business model that is right for you. Because there isn't one way of living your life. And I think, especially for women, it's so difficult for us to own fully who we are, because there is so much conditioning that is within our society about how you should be as a woman. It's the same for men, but I think especially for women, there is so much has changed in women's lives over the last 100 years. The expectations, some of the expectations of the society and the communities haven't changed, but other expectations were added into the old expectations of being a homemaker, of being a mother, of being a wife or a partner. There is the added stuff around, well, now you need to have a career in addition to that, or build your own business and being independent. There is so much in here. And when we don't have supportive community around us, it can feel exhausting. It can feel overwhelming. It can feel like, the job of Sisyphus, just pushing that boulder up the hill. And the moment you stop looking, it rolls back down. And it feels like you're starting and stopping and starting and stopping. And that's a very classic burnout cycle if you think about this. You work really, really hard, really, really hard, but it's unsustainable. So then you crash. It takes time to recover. And then you try to work even harder, which again, long-term is unsustainable, and then you crash. And that particularly happens when you don't have that community around you, when you don't feel like you can collaborate with other women, other practitioners who can really support you, when you are left with your own thoughts and trying to work it out by searching online or reading stuff, but actually not having anybody to say it out loud to, and not having anybody to give you that feedback. Very simple stuff like, saying, this is what happened to me and this is how I feel. So for example, we have our monthly free, open to all, trauma-informed yoga teacher and coach and practitioner free community circle. We have it once a month, and it's open to anybody, any practitioner who works or wants to work in trauma-informed somatic approach. Whether you are a yoga teacher or wellness practitioner or coach or healer or teacher, if you want to come and join a community of other practitioners working in trauma-informed and somatic approach, I invite you to come and join us for that free community circle. And so often people arrive and just talk about, this is what happened to me. This is, somebody said that, or somebody gave me that feedback, and this is how it made me feel. And just by saying that in a space that feels safe to share something so vulnerable can feel really healing, because it's only in that kind of situation that you will get the feedback from others that will say, oh yes, God, I'm really sorry that happened to you. I'm really sorry that you are going through this. That sounds awful. Or that sounds really challenging. Or saying things like, well, I can really relate to that. That happened to me in the past as well. And this is how I dealt with it. Have you tried to do that? Or maybe you can do this. It's this sense of somebody mirroring back to you what you are going through, and also saying to you, I care, I'm sorry this happened to you, I'm sorry that this is really hard, or just saying, well, you are not the only one, I'm feeling like this as well. So for example, in our circle last week, the September circle, free community circle, we were talking about how we are struggling getting back into our normal working schedule in September. And we all realized that we all felt in a very similar way. And we were talking about knowing about other practitioners feeling similar way. Like there isn't enough energy. It's difficult to shift the gears to get more enthusiastic or more proactive. Like, and no wonder after the last few years, after the pandemic and the lockdowns and having to work in a different way, and then many of us knowing that we don't want to go back into this high level of busyness, and yet life, pulling us into it and being back into that busyness again, and then slowing down maybe a little bit for summer, and then coming out on the other end in September, and just really feeling like there is an expectation of moving forward much more, but maybe not feeling enough of inner resources to do that. And then so often what comes up with it is making ourselves feel wrong. There is something wrong with me. Everybody else seems to be doing it and really going for it, and there is something wrong with me. And what we can experience in those circles and within the community is others mirroring back to us and saying, you're not the only one. There is nothing wrong with you. How you feel is how you feel, and how can you look after yourself now that you feel that way? How you feel is how you feel, and can you honor it? Can you witness it and acknowledge it for yourself? And from that connected space, can you then decide what it is that you need? And how can you meet those needs in an empowered way? That's a very different experience than being on your own, feeling like you just working really hard, seeing some results, but actually really questioning yourself, maybe even feeling like an imposter. There is a lot of self-doubt, there is a lot of overwhelm, there is a lot of confusion, trying to work it out for yourself, and then sometimes it can lead to burnout. So for me, when I think about a kind of essence of trauma-informed and somatic work, from my experience, personal experience and working with others, it's that community aspect that brings with it this safe container and being held in a space, in a safe space to explore, to experiment, to share, to collaborate. That's what makes it so different from other paths. It is a different path. It is a healing path. And it is a path of connection and co-regulation, a deeply transformational path, a path that will allow you to become fully who you want to be, in a safe way, in a way that you can move forward with baby steps, and at the right pace and rhythm, the right rhythm and pace for you. And this is the kind of community that I am creating. That is my intention to create, and I am creating with other female practitioners at our Golden Mandala Yoga Soma Institute. and within the 160-hour trauma-informed somatic teacher and coach for women training certification. My intention, my heartfelt intention, is to hold that space for our community to thrive so we can collaborate, work together, and make a better impact within our communities and the world. So if you are interested in being part of this deeply transformational community, reach out and let's connect. And come and join us. Come and join us on this journey, on this road less traveled, path less traveled, so we can learn, grow, and heal together.